Yeah, a leech would be a cool thing to find. A leech would be a pretty cool thing to find in the sewers. I could put a leech in there. That could be a leech. Why not? Okay, but how fucked up would this leech be though? So I already made a pretty messed up looking leech monster in Malison. They're one of the game's many vampires. That would be pretty good. Just after you lose I mean it would be right after Steve. Because it's in the area just after Steve there. I think I remember leeches have kind of like a moon-shaped teeth thing, right? I feel it's something like that, like a leech's mouth. Oh yeah, there's some that are like, they kind of like these three like rolls like this, right? It's like three things that are kind of like with like teeth at the tip like this, right? Yeah, I remember seeing that. Almost like three little wheels. Yeah, that's good. Lampreys, I think, aren't lampreys like knife fish or something? Like they're kind of like electric eels. They're not worms, right? Like they're more actually fish, right? I think. Did they lose their mouth, or were they before mouths were a thing, or jaws were a thing? You know, did they get rid of jaws because they didn't need them, or are they just too ancient, for jaws? Back in my day, we didn't need no unhinged mandibles to chew our food. I should actually look at a leech for a moment. I haven't actually been looking at one. Of course, all I get is lampreys. Typical. I know, yeah. The fact that, yeah, because I forgot that this guy would be underwater. Well, this guy would be, like, in the water. So it actually doesn't lend itself very well to, like, a long snake-like. So maybe I should make him more humanoid. That would just fit better with the knee-high water, I think. So I think I'm gonna actually make him more like humanoid. It's just gonna fit better with that. In Malison, vampires are one of the sort of enemy types. Sort of one of the types of creatures you encounter. They're very rare. They're not a common type of thing. And they're usually like a really nasty boss battle. They're very, very, like, dangerous. And every vampire looks completely different. And they're all sort of... I mean, they're usually some kind of vampiric animal. They're usually some kind of vampiric animal. One of them is a mosquito. There's a leech one. But there's also, like, they're not always vampiric. Sometimes they're just... They kind of represent hunger in general. Just a gnawing hunger. It's like they're themed around being like empty and filling like trying to fill a never-ending void. One of them is a tick, a giant weird tick with a face on its abdomen. One of them is like a weird crocodile thing. It's like a cursed human that was like deformed by its hunger. That's like the general... Like a cursed human that was deformed by... That was made into something inhuman by like some sort of hunger curse. Is the general visual vibe of them. You'll find you'll see a bunch of vampires in the scrolling monsters at the top right. And usually you see blood. Usually sort of the visual hint that you're dealing with a vampire is that there's usually going to be like a pool of blood in their sprite design. Even if they're not necessarily a vampiric sort of animal, they're still just going to be like covered in blood in some way. Or they're often going to have just a pool of blood at their feet. And most of the vampires are disguised when you first see them. They're kind of like hiding. It's like a whole thing. There's not like 20 or like 40 of them or anything like the others. Like a lot of the monster types, there's like a huge amount of them. The vampires, there's like maybe 12 in the game or something. So it's not like a huge set of them. And each of them is like a boss battle. Yeah, you can do anything you want. There's not really any rules. There really isn't any rules to the game jam. Like I said, it's barely even really a game jam. It's more something to explore, like level design and game design. And I'm just using the game jam to just have everyone's every game that we make be in one place so we can play it at the end and just talk about game design in them. So it's more about learning and experimenting than... So, like, there isn't really a competition to it, so... Yeah, that kind of lightens the need to put in rules, you know? It's not really about everyone being on the even playing field here. It's just about everyone learning. So yeah, there isn't really a competitive side to this. Yeah, I'm running something that's like a game jam. It's starting next week, although there is sort of a first part this coming Friday. This coming Friday, I'll be doing a crash course in RPG Maker. Just very basics of RPG Maker. Because a lot of people are not super familiar with RPG Maker, and since this is what I'll be using for my example game, I figure it's going to be useful to have everyone start on the same page. But the actual thing isn't really about RPG Maker. It's more about RPG game design in general. And it's about... Yeah, it's really about RPG game design overall. Which I feel is something that people should talk about more in the RPG Maker community. Because I feel like I was looking to find people who talked about it, and it kind of feels like people just don't really want to talk about game design. People seem shy in the RPG community, in the RPG Maker community, to talk about game design. Whenever people put out like videos about RPG Maker and that seem like they're about RPG Maker like game design, it's usually not about game design. It's usually just about using the software, and then people always stop shy of talking about what to actually make with it. I have played Fear and Hunger, yes. I didn't play the sequel yet. I heard that the sequel has a lot in common with Malison, so I'm curious to play it, but I'm also a bit nervous to play it and end up like copying it if it's already very similar. If it already has a lot in common with Malison. I kind of want to wait for Malison to come out before I play the sequel. Because Malison already had a lot in common with the original Fear and Hunger. And hearing that the sequel is even more similar, you know, makes me want to wait a bit before I try it, you know? So for context, Malison started out as something that when I later played Fear and Hunger, I realized, wow, the original direction Malison was going was very similar to Fear and Hunger in design. And over time, Malison moved away from that. And it was sort of interesting to see, because Fear and Hunger almost felt like what Malison could have turned into if I'd stuck to that original plan more. But I sort of got cold feet on it. So until recently, Blixiverse, I was mostly living off of doing freelance work. And doing game dev, not really as a hobby, more like as something else that hasn't paid off yet, you know? I've been working on a project for a long time, and it's being published by Devolver, so it would probably, you know, eventually when releasing, it would probably make money. But as long as it's not released, it's just potential money. But Look Outside has changed that. Look Outside now, with Look Outside's release, now I very much live off of game dev directly. But before that, it was always like freelancing on game dev stuff over the years. I've done work for all sorts of games. But yeah, Look Outside. Look Outside is doing very well, so it's good because I don't need to do freelance work to pay to work on Malison anymore. I don't need to, you know. I just have the money now, so that should really speed up the rest of development on it, hopefully. I had a lot of budget. Like, Devolver gave me budget to work on Malison, but over the years, you know, I was working on it very slowly to not spend all that budget, but over time, just, you know, living expenses end up eating into it anyway, so, you know, over time, that budget, even if I'm spending it very slowly, it sort of gets eaten up over time, just naturally. Yeah, this here is stuff for Look Outside 1.5 update, 1.5 update, which should be coming out early next month. Yep. Yeah, it should be early next month. Now, I'm not sure when early next month because, you know, I wanted it to be very early next month, but I ended up spending last week mostly just chilling and working, doing some post-jam work on our Game Jam game, which I am continuing to do. I'm just not doing it on stream as much. I've been doing it just sort of... I've been splitting my time off stream between working on that and preparing for the crash course, the RPG Maker crash course I want to do this Friday. And preparations on that are doing very well. It's basically done. That should be very interesting. Hopefully. My plans for this goober is that it's just going to be like an enemy. It's just going to be someone that attacks you. Just want to add a bit more variation to the things that you fight in the flooded basement. Just a bit more variation. I love this song. It's a really good one. Mishiru Yamane really knocked that one out of the park. Is this one based on a classic? Is this song based like inspired of like a classic like old NES Castlevania track? I'm not sure. Like it's always sounds a little like vaguely familiar, but a lot of Castlevania music is like that. Like some of the best Castlevania songs are like really good remakes of old songs, right? Like Heart of Fire, the really good boss battle track when you're fighting the really good sort of final boss track of Area of Sorrow. Is like a remix of... It's like a remix and combination of two classic game themes. And it's really good. It's like one of the best songs in this series, I think. It's like a mix of like a Castlevania 1 song and a song from like the Game Boy Castlevania game, right? This song is kind of like Alucard's theme song, sort of, isn't it? That's what the title seems like it implies. I think it's kind of meant to be Alucard's theme song. The stretches are every 50 minutes. I just have something set up here to warn me every 50 minutes. Just so I don't sit still without moving my legs for like an hour. That's really bad for your legs. It's really bad for your circulation. I think so, yes. I think it might. In this update, I don't think so. There could be, but we have been talking about some Sybil stuff, but more for the 2.0 update, which will be later. It's not gonna be for yeah, because the Sybil stuff we're talking about is definitely gonna take more time. This is the 1.5 update is, you know, it's a lot of stuff, but it's not... The 2.0 update, we're talking like several months worth of stuff. While this is more like 1 month of stuff. The 1.5. Yeah, some negative lore. Some updates that just remove some of her dialogue lines. She's just disappearing like Back to the Future pictures. Oh, nice. That's cool. Good job. Final Toccata. That song's really good, but it plays in so much of the game that it becomes annoying. It plays in like 2/3 of the reverse castle. Well, it's pretty final, you know, it's essentially the second half of the game. So definitely, and also, you know, I mean, the second half of the game is played through very quickly, so it really is more like the last third of the game. Symphony of the Night is very good. If anyone here hasn't played that yet, and you like exploration games, there's a reason Symphony of the Night essentially started a genre. It's very good. Your soul, your conscience stops you. You know that, you know, even if you turn back the hands of the clock, in the end, you know what you did. You still heard its cries. You still heard its cries. And for what? For a single Chivo. I can't believe you would do something like that. That's so fucked up. Can't believe you'd do something like that. To your own child. It had to be done. It had to be done. There was no other option. I feel like this song is the only one that's kind of weak in the whole soundtrack. The final boss track is just... isn't kind of nothing. I think the reason people are so harsh on Zarya is that when they kick Zarya out in righteous anger over what she did to the baby, a small part of them is punishing that alternate universe version of themselves that fed the baby to that wood chipper. You see yourself in her a little bit, don't you? That's why. That's why. I can't believe Sam just got another stalker. Sam just found another stalker, folks. It just doesn't stop happening. Well, I mean, I don't know if Rafta stalked Nestor. At one point you gotta I don't know if thinking about someone and asking you to send them a letter, I feel like that's... I mean, things go awry after that, but I don't think I would call what happened before, you know, the incident. I don't think that would count as stalking. You know, Rafta and Nestor's relationship is complicated. Lay apologist? The hell does Lay have to apologize for? She's basically blameless. Basically blameless. Pure as a newborn babe. Pure as a newborn babe. You can't even prove she killed anyone. You can't even prove she killed anyone. Well, I wouldn't go as far as to say she didn't. All right, hey, here's a fun poll. Hey, everybody. Here's a fun poll. I'm wondering where people stand on this. So, you know Helen. Y'all know Helen, right? Y'all know Helen. Right? Everyone knows Helen. Everyone's a Helen knower. We love our Helen, don't we, folks? All right. What do you think is the worst thing Helen has ever done? You know, I just wonder where people stand on that one. Yeah, stay out of that one, Land Shark. Come on. You're literally in the dev chat. Literally in the dev chat over here. Oh, stay out of that one. Yeah, I hope so. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Interesting. I see how it is. Also, tax evasion is what she says in Malison. When you ask her why you find... Because you find her in jail in Malison. And she's obviously a fucking murderer or something. You know, she looks just horrifying in there. And you ask her what she's in there for. And she says, I didn't pay my taxes. Yes, Helen does come from Malison. But in Malison, she looks more like... she looks less like Jason Voorhees, and she looks more like Michael Myers. Yeah, it is. It is how they got Capone. I mean, that's often... I mean, that's basically how racketeering works, right? Racketeering charges. It's like just kind of the thing they do. It's just way easier to prove in court than conspiracy to commit crimes. Or something. It's like the burden of proof or whatever is like a lot easier to meet for racketeering. Now we're in for some Lisa soundtrack stuff. I think that's the reason, right? Why they got him on taxes. Because yeah, it's really like if criminals are careful, it's really, really difficult to get them on like actual literal organized crime. So they just found a bunch of ways to get them in ways where they don't literally just need to not be idiots to never get caught or something. Like it's really difficult to prove anything if they're just even a little bit careful. So like racketeering as a charge, I think, was basically made up to remedy that problem. That's my understanding. Oh yeah, they absolutely have taxes. Are you crazy? Taxes went up. Taxes went up. The fucking apocalypse. There's an apocalypse tax was added. There's more taxes now. New horrible taxes. The tax code itself underwent a horrible mutation. I prefer not to answer questions about the endings. Apollo. This is kind of where a lot of people tend to do a lot of their theorizing and stuff, and I feel like giving specific answers to like the endings is kind of ruining it. Oh yeah, there's a real question. In the denial ritual ending, to which countries does Sam pay taxes to? How many tax forms does he have to fill every year? There's still taxes. There's still countries. Oh yeah, I imagine. The one thing denial Sam fears. Being audited in multiple countries at once. And having to answer about all of his commercial activities in all of them. I think he just has more jobs in the denial ending. I think he's the least unemployed anyone's ever been. I mean, it seems like it might be all considered volunteering work, which is a little different, I suppose. So maybe it depends on how you look at it, but you know, think of it as mutual aid. Think of it as mutual aid, you know, helping his communities. Maybe this is how he gets out of the tax hell, you know? Just applies for every possible statute about volunteering. You know? Maybe that can squeeze him out of that in most countries. Yeah, a non-profit entity, exactly. Wow, really? It's all of a sudden a much more sinister version of that ending you're imagining there, Steel Soldier. Sam the Taxman, the protector of Earth. You know? He's gonna get that protection money. Yeah, you wouldn't want nothing to happen to your business, would ya? You wouldn't want, Oh, whoops. Sorry about that. Looks like, my root, tore a hole in your wall. Sometimes things like that can happen, you know? We wouldn't want something like that to happen again, would we? Maybe it's tough for you to pay a little bit more than you used to, eh? Now, someone's gotta write that. Someone's gonna write that fanfic, that alternate universe fic of the mobster version of Denial Sam. Finally. But publicly, he's still seen as like the good guy. He's still seen as the protector of Earth, you know? It's just those that deal directly with him that understand. He's got a bit of a sinister side, it turns out. Let's just say he's got his fingers in many pies. And boy, does he got a lot of fingers. Yeah, you know, he's taking a beer with you, and one small part of him is having a beer with you while he's pushing someone to sleep with the fishes elsewhere. Maybe someone you know. And maybe, you know, after having a beer, he just kind of says, hey, Simon gives his regards. Simon? What about Simon? We haven't seen him in a while. I'm sure he'll turn up. Parts of him get like drive-by shootings every once in a while. They're not supposed to, it's not like to kill him. It's just to sort of, you know, push him back from some territories, you know. There's all these territory disputes. And his territory is just places he's physically grown into. I like this guy. I like this guy. Yeah, I really like the idea now of Denial Sam with like a pinstripe suit. Denial Sam in a pinstripe suit trying to be intimidating. Surrounded by like a posse of thugs. Yeah, he's got an army of tailors. Rattling, boys. A Transmetropolitan style story about a journalist trying to uncover that Sam isn't as nice as everyone thinks he is. Sam is the smiler. I really like it, but the slightly offbeat drum crash always just kind of gets me. I still can't figure out if it's on purpose or not. People tend to say that it's on purpose. It's meant to like, but you know, sure, it's on purpose that the drums, the drums pick up sorta with the wrong rhythm. It's so off. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I ruined the song in some way. But those drums come in every time. It's so jarring. Also, they just have a different quality from the rest of the song too. But I love the song. I love the song overall, but damn. Those drums are so jarring. I did not play any Lisa fan game yet, no. I also didn't play the expansion. I don't know if you could call it an expansion. The Lisa the Joyful. I didn't play that yet either. Bam. All right. I'm pretty happy with that. I think that's a good goober. Everyone loves that goober. A new goober was born this day. All right. What's next? What other goober? What other goober? Something else that feel like it would be at home in a drain fly. Yeah, those are like kind of hairy looking tiny little flies, right? Yeah, they're they're hairy little flies. Yeah, they're kind of like fruit flies, right? They look a lot like fruit flies. A flushed goldfish would be pretty good. And a flushed goldfish would be pretty good.